or you don't respect your own body, then yes, it can take your life. Let's be honest. Breath holding can take your life. And if you start having incidents on top of that, let's say not fatal, but blacking out, loss of consciousness, lumbar trauma, hypoxia, there's no data, scientific data to say that that's okay. So therefore, because we don't have long-term data to say that multiple blackouts are okay, we need to assume the safest, and the safest is to assume that it's bad for you. Therefore, at all costs, you should avoid having bad incidents in breath holding, right? But if you do it safely, it can be very wholesome when it's done right.
All right. Well, Jani, thank you for being here. I'm super stoked to connect a little more. And before we dive into our conversation, would you mind just introducing yourself and telling people a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you and share some content with your audience. My name is Juan Valdivia, and everybody knows me as Jani or Jani in the freediving community. My regular job is I'm a neurosurgeon. I've been a neurosurgeon since 2009, and then I'm also a freediver. I was practicing at University of Michigan as faculty in neurosurgery when I became a freediver after taking my first class in the Bahamas. And after that, decided to move to Florida just to freedive and continue my career. Currently, I'm a freediver. I'm a competitive freediver, freediving medic, just a freediving junkie, if you want to call it that way. I do some research, and I'm medical director for the USA Freediving Federation. Yeah.
I was curious. It was funny. I was curious which came first, freediving or medicine. So it sounds like medicine came just a little bit before freediving.
Medicine came a long time ago. I started medical school when I was very young, super young. Freediving started when, like most freedivers that get very into freediving, most of us, I feel like we were looking for something. We were looking for some answer or some meaning. And I found that in freediving. So that was way into my career already. That was a big reason why I moved states across the country, if you will. Yeah. So.
I love that you say it's most freedivers are seekers, because I definitely believe that. But I was somebody who grew up on the beach. So like I was freediving before I knew what freediving was. So, and you said that your first class was in the Bahamas. Was it like a freediving class? Was it scuba? Like what was the thing in the Bahamas that hooked you to freediving? Was it like an actual freedive certification kind of thing?
Yes. I grew up next to the water in Peru, in Lima. So I grew up surfing and swimming in the ocean. I took scuba, and then I saw this documentary called Breath by William Trubridge, and I decided to take his class in the same place in the Deep Blue Hole, and that really changed my life. That class changed my whole life. That week that I took that class, I was deciding between moving to a very good job to Philly. That week taught me that I needed to hold my breath for the rest of my life and be in the water, and that made me whole somehow. So if you ask many freedivers that are very much into freediving, they were looking for something, I feel, in my opinion. And that freediving just gave us that,
I love that you say it makes you feel whole. The word, because it's hard to articulate the feeling that freedivers feel, or I would even say like water babies feel when they feel in the water. But for me, it's always home. There's something about when I get in the water and submerge and I'm in that silence. And I also just love like being able to see like the fish and the wildlife and that kind of stuff. But there's something that immediately I feel like I'm taken out of all the other stuff. And then I just arrive at this like eternal, infinite home.
Yeah. Well, imagine, and I'm taking this from a quote from someone else. Imagine when was your first breath hold? It was when you were in utero, right?
Yep.
When you were in utero, you were holding your breath, you were in apnea, and you were in liquid, and you were warm, at peace, surrounded with love, growing. And that's sort of what we look after, or we seek if you're doing, let's say, depth line diving. You're you with yourself, and you feel all those nice sensations, love, welcoming, presence. So this kind of takes you back in a way to when you were, before being born, a fetus.
Oh, I love it. So I'm curious, for people who have never free dove and they've never, maybe they're not a water person, that's not something that lights them up, or they just haven't had that opportunity. A lot of questions that I get about freediving or breath holding in particular, I would say the number one question I get is, does it cause brain damage? So as someone who is in medicine and a neurosurgeon and a freediver, can you speak to that question when people ask, doesn't breath holding cause brain damage? Because if you don't breathe for so long, you hear of all these people, if they've drowned or if they had some kind of injury to where they weren't able to breathe and, that's how they pass away. What's the difference between the conscious breath hold and how that affects somebody versus, them reaching the point of no return?
I feel like that's a tough question to answer, although it depends on what we define as breath hold. And if you define breath hold as knowing your limits, doing it safely within normal physiological limits, and not pushing your own specific innate physical boundaries, breath holding. And I cannot say this 100% with 100% certainty with scientific data, but I don't believe, in my personal case, that it causes brain damage. I'm a brain surgeon and spine surgeon, and the tools that freediving has given me in order to compete in freediving helped me tremendously in life and in my professional work, and in surgery. It has helped me. It has made me a much better human being, in my own opinion. So now, if you take breath hold to the extreme, if you don't respect your limits and you do it unsafely, if you're not trained, if you breath hold alone, even if you breath hold alone at home, on dry on your couch with a nose clip or a mask, or you don't respect your own body, then yes, it can take your life. Let's be honest. Breath holding can take your life. And if you start having incidents on top of that, let's say not fatal, but blacking out, loss of consciousness, lumbar trauma, hypoxia, there's no data, scientific data, to say that that's okay. So therefore, because we don't have long-term data to say that multiple blackouts are okay, we need to assume the safest, and the safest is to assume that it's bad for you. Therefore, at all costs, you should avoid having bad incidents in breath holding, right? But if you do it safely, it can be very wholesome when it's done right.
If you were to kind of give some guidance on people who are getting into freediving, or maybe even some advanced freedivers who would kind of want to go a little deeper into that conversation and say, like, okay, so what's like the safe parameters? If you were to give them just a little bit of tips of here's how to listen to your body, here's how to really navigate your own parameters, are there any specific like signs or symptoms that they're looking to avoid or to really keep within range?
Yes. If you're going to take anything away from this interview, is you should never breath hold alone. And you should always have someone with you. We call it a buddy or a safety, whether it's in the water or out of the water. And because if you're out of the water and you become hypoxic on your couch, there's no one that can guarantee that you're going to come out fine. So having someone watch you all the time it's just safe, and it's more fun because you're sharing an activity with someone. What you should be paying attention is, if you are starting freediving, number one, get certified. Get certified under any agency that has a good reputation that will give you the one-on-one on safety and how not to hurt yourself or hurt others. That's the number one thing. And after that, be mindful of your, try to read your own body. It's something that we don't do a lot in the West, let's say, right? If we generalize, or in Western medicine, we don't do a lot of reading your own body and listening to your own body. But in freediving, we need that. When you need to listen to everything to be able to know if you're even getting in the water or not, or even pushing yourself in the water or performing. So listening to your own body is something that you gain along the long journey of freediving. It's not just something that you do that. So yeah, listen to your body, getting certified, never dive alone. Yeah.
When you listen, kind of going down that line of thought, when you listen to your body, because I know you compete, and it was really neat watching you compete. I watched the live stream of one of the last, the competitions at the Blue Hole, and it was really neat to see you dive and to see some other divers going down there. But one of the things, since you have been practicing for quite a while, when you're listening to your body, when you're kind of making that decision, oh, do I get in the water today? Or when you're in the water and you're going for depth and you're down on the line and you decide, oh, I'm going to turn around or I'm going to keep going for it. What is maybe something that you could share that is a practice or a routine or something that kind of gets you into that mode of listening to your body better and being able to perform better, or just feeling in like that flow or dive state a little easier?
Yeah. So that's the holy grail, right? Because in our regular lives, in the life I live, in my regular job, I'm always constantly worried about external goals, about other people, patients, anticipating, creating scenarios in my mind of how to predict a problem or solve a problem. And you think, and we're addicted to thinking in the West, let's say, right? In civilization, we're addicted to thinking. Even philosophy will teach you, I think, therefore I am. So we assume that the more we think, the better we are. And that's true in a lot of things. Otherwise, we wouldn't evolve, right? I depend on that to work on others. But when you separate and when I go to perform, I don't have like my other friends in freediving. They may have weeks and months to prepare. I only have a couple weeks before the comp, or 10 days. So I go and I crunch all that in that little time, and I need to really work on my mind. And what I do is I try to, instead of focusing on external goals, I focus on internal goals and what's important for me, being present. I have lose the sense of time when I perform, and having internal goals. It start, let's say, getting in the water and feeling welcome in the water, in ocean specifically. And if you do, let's say I have a performance, let's say, and I do a warm-up dive. We call it a warm-up dive, a shallow dive. I go down to, let's say, 20 meters and I ascend, and my mantra is love. Love, meaning everything is love. The water, even if you have contractions and I don't feel well, that's love too. So I tell myself, I do self-programming. This is good. This is good for me. And this is all. Everything that matters in life, it's right here with me. And that brings me to the present. That's number one. And then, I don't know if you've read Eckhart Tolle. He focuses on thought and thought control. We cannot stop thinking, right? So when you're about to perform, let's say to my PB, my personal best, I don't say, I better get there. If I get there, I'm going to get more followers. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. So you just concentrate on enjoying that and losing track of the target. If you don't concentrate on the target comes. It just appears. And I tell myself that I'm going to enjoy it. And if I don't make it, it's okay. So there's no judgment. And those three things help me a lot. And it helps me being a normal human being, to tell you the truth. It helps me treat people better, be more conscientious of other people's emotions in general. So if you do it that way, and that's not perfect way, it helps you, it makes you better in a way.
I find it fascinating that you use the mantra of love. Well, I guess not fascinating, because it is what drives most of humanity, right? We all want to be loved. We all want to give love. We want to experience that feeling of love. And I have a really terrible irrational fear of flying. And every time I get on the plane, it's usually the takeoff that is the most terrifying for me. And I just over and over in my head, along with my breath, I start to just do the mantra of love, and I can feel it start to like permeate, like not just me, but like the plane. And I imagine it kind of like going around the plane, and like everything is love. And then I even say to myself, I'm like, even if I crash, it's all love and it's all beautiful and it's all part of life and it's okay. So I think that it's nice hearing you say that you use that for something, because I believe that it's one of the easiest mantras that people can use, and that I believe we all can subscribe to and relate to, of like, hey, this is what life is about. It's like you said, love is permeating everything. It's all part of it, the good, the bad, and to just be able to sow that into the present. And for me, I do that with my breath, and I assume you're there not only prepping, but even when you're in the breath hold, it's that encapsulation in the present. You're constantly in that moment. And how you talked about how the target will come, I find that that is the easiest thing for me when I'm doing my breath holds, is never moving outside of wherever I'm at. Like, it just has to be, this is where I'm at. I'm not at this part of the line, or I'm not at this part of the time or the depth or the distance if you're doing dynamic. It's just, you are where you are. And that kind of allows time, in my opinion, to equally slow down with calmness, but also speed up. Like, if you're trying to get to a certain time or depth, you're like, oh, wait, I've already arrived.
Yeah. The practice of freediving is, I feel like a lot of people in the general public feel like it's so foreign, so unnatural. But we all are coded, I believe, genetically, when we are born with the dive reflex. We are born with it, right? If you see babies that are newborns born in the water, they instinctively know how to open their eyes, close their glottis, and swim. So they didn't take a swimming class, but they were born that way. So we are all born with the tools to be able to survive under the water for a determined amount of time. And freediving allows you to unlock that slowly with time, so that when you practice freediving, you enjoy it. You practice something that you were coded to perform in ancient millennia ago, perhaps. And that's it. That's brings you back to a place that I don't know what kind of place it is. May it bring you back to when you were in utero, or maybe to bring you back to your ancestors millennia ago. I don't know. But it's a practice that makes everyone likes it. Let's be honest. Everyone that does freediving enjoys that and is hooked to it. And we're not sure exactly why. So that's a big mystery.
I'm curious. So you said you grew up in Peru by the water. Like, how did you end up in the States practicing medicine? Can it get a little background? Because I don't feel like I've ever actually heard the story of how you got to where you are now.
I grew up in Lima. Lima is the capital of Peru. It's huge. I don't know how many million. It's like over 12 million people or so. And I did med school there, and I never knew that I wanted to leave or anything, because all my family there.
Did you know you always wanted to be in medicine?
No. The last year of med school, the last year of high school, when I used to have long hair in high school and be a rebel. I said, I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. My dad was a detective in the police intelligence, and my mom was in marketing media. So I didn't have anyone to guide me in medicine. So I finished med school. Med school there is 8 years long. It's like 4 years of 4 college. It's all together. And then at 2 years before I graduated med school, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And I asked myself, where is the place where they have there's the best training in the world for neurosurgery. And at that time, it was in the US. So I came to do a rotation at Northwestern, being a medical student, and I loved it. And they gave me really good letters of reference. So it looked really positive. And matching as a foreigner, graduating in a foreign medical school, entering neurosurgery in the US was almost impossible because you have to prove yourself against U.S. citizens and U.S. grads, so for programs that accept sometimes one resident a year. So it was impossible almost, but I was blessed to have the letters of reference that I had and do some research and play my cards the right way. And I didn't, when I matched for neurosurgery and started neurosurgery training here in the U.S., I didn't know I was going to stay until I was offered a job at University of Michigan. And I stayed. It allows me to perform very difficult, demanding, challenging work on other humans. This is the best place I can do it if I compare home. Obviously, I miss home a lot, but this country has given me that amazing opportunity to treat others.
So what does a regular day in medicine look like? Because I know you just got off work, and I just always find it, now that I'm back in school in the healthcare field, I just have this elevated, not to say I didn't already appreciate healthcare providers and practitioners, but I'm like, my mind is blown at how much schooling you have to go through, training, and then all of the situations that you're presented with on a daily basis. So I imagine every day looks different, but what would be like a typical day in your profession, in your field?
I take what I do very seriously. And in neurosurgery, it's one of those subspecialties where you have to put yourself, in my opinion, again, you have to put yourself second to your patients. You can't be saying, oh, it's 5 p.m. I have to clock out. I have to go. Or I'm too tired. I need an extra nap time or something. Or I have to go to the bathroom. I cannot go to the operating room right now. It's not like that. No, you have to be second to others. And that elevates you morally and personally. So I start my day. I wake up at 5 a.m., get ready. I'm in the hospital by, let's say, 6:15, make rounds on my patients. And if it's operative day, I'm in the preoperative area by 6:50 or 7, make sure my patient's ready. By 7:30, we're in the operating room and we're there until the work is done. There's no shifts. You're there until the work is done. And literally the hours pass when you're in surgery because you're not checking the clock and seeing when. You're not checking, oh, I need to do this, or you're present. And that's probably why we like surgery so much, because we're present. And if I'm on call, I'm on call 5-6 times a month, they could call me 24/7 for any emergency that is neurosurgical. And you have to be able to perform at 100% of your capabilities at the drop of a hat. That's neurosurgery. Neurosurgery. That's why neurosurgery training is so long and so demanding, because it breaks you before it makes you. It cannot form I cannot form a surgeon that could say, "Oh, I'm too tired." Never. You can never. If someone's dying, you need to act, and then you can deal with the rest, with yourself, meaning. But that's neurosurgery. And if it's non-operative day, I do the same, but I go to clinic and I see patients and I listen and I follow. And you look at trends in medicine, you look at things, and then you look at trends. If someone's getting better, someone's getting worse, and then you act accordingly. It's a beautiful thing being in medicine, being in healthcare in general. If you're a provider, whether you're a respiratory therapist, a surgeon, a nurse, anything, it's a privilege to be able to treat someone. It's not this, I feel like it's not a privilege for patients to see us. It's a privilege for us to treat them.
Yeah.
And that really gives you a different perspective. It makes you thankful to do that. So.
Well, I mean, and you're legitimately experiencing life and death on the daily, where I think a lot of individuals, if they're healthy and they're not in that field, right? Because the patient itself is experiencing some kind of touch of life and death, and the provider as well. But if you're someone who's not in that field and you don't have anything going on, a lot of people can kind of forget the fragility of life. And I think when we lose sight of the fragility of it, we can lose sight of, for lack of better articulation, the blessing of it, the beauty of it, the brightness that comes. I'm curious, as far as your field and what you're doing, are you dealing more with patients who are kind of having something going on and then they know it's coming and they're scheduling surgery with you? Or is it like trauma surgery where that person maybe had something happen to them that morning and then they end up in your operating room that afternoon? Like, what does that kind of look like?
So I work for a hospital system, for a medical group, and we do both. We do elective practice, ambulatory outpatient clinic, and we sort of plan things ahead, treat or not treat. And then we do ER as well, emergencies. So we see trauma, brain tumor, spinal fractures, infections, and things like that. So you respond to both. It is demanding. It is not easy. It is not, because you always have to build a small barrier emotional between you and the patient to be able to be more objective. But it's not easy. You're not a robot. So seeing many, many patients that are in dire straits, you pay a tax for that, emotional tax at some point. Yeah, and that's okay. That's a job.
Yeah, and if you're comfortable with it, I'm curious a little bit more of expanding on that, because my friend who has been a nurse for years, she keeps warning me as I'm going into respiratory therapy and I'm about to go into my clinical. She keeps warning me. She's like, you're going to see some really messed up stuff, and you're going to see things that you're not going to be able to change. And how did she say it? You'll see people, like nurses and RTs and so everybody who's in that field kind of having that, like you said, that little bit of a filter or block. She's like, but trust me, we're not cold. We're not turned off. I think she even said we're not robots, but she was trying to allude to there's something that has to give or change or be molded into the provider in healthcare so that they can be competent to do their job. And yeah, I'm curious, because I always hear from the patient perspective too, when you hear of them feeling like sometimes they'll have an experience where they feel like the person didn't care, but then so often you have these people who go through traumatic events or even just something that isn't that traumatic. And they're like, the nurse changed my life or the doctor changed my life. They were the best thing that has ever come into my life. So I've heard it from both sides, from the patient sphere, but I'm curious, as the provider, like when you talk about that tax or kind of putting up that thing, what can you maybe expound on that?
Yeah. I can tell you from my point of view, from neurological surgery, you have to be in complete control of taking care of someone. And in my line of work, I aim to be the neurosurgeon I want for myself, which is someone with very somber, serious, with no sense of humor, extremely OCD, and get your job done fast and well. That's what you want for your surgeon. You don't want someone joking or saying, I'm going to get a coffee and I'll be back. I'm too tired. I'll be back tomorrow. No, you want someone who will put themselves second to put you first. And that's what you want to aim as a provider. Right? Ideally, I probably can't do that all the time, but I try to. So yeah, you have to put some. If you are too emotional or too connected to the patient, let's say, God forbid, a family member, it's very difficult. I have treated someone very, very close to me, And thank God everything went great, but it was probably the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. Because it's not only difficult to operate and care, like any patient that you touch, even if things are not related to what you've done, you always wonder, did I do you care, whatever ramifications, you care a lot. But if it's someone you love, I mean, forget it. I don't know if I can do that again. I would do that again if I was presented to me the same way. But if I could choose to do it again, I don't know. It's very difficult. So that tells you that you need to isolate yourself and abstract yourself slightly when you treat someone. But again, we're humans. We were not robots. So when you do many cases and you see people in really tough situations, it hits you. It hits you a lot. So it's, yeah, I mean, it maybe in some areas of medicine is not as bad, but in neurosurgery, you have to, I don't think anyone would say, no, it never touches me. That's not real. But I don't know what else to tell you. No, ask me more.
For me, it's always been breathing techniques. But for you, is there, in that moment when you're working on someone who's very close to you, is there some kind of technique or tool that you use to emotionally keep yourself composed so that you were able to operate on them?
That's a very good question. So you practice for surgery specifically, and I'm making a parallel between breath work, freediving, and performing something really difficult like surgery. And in performance freediving competition, we use tools such as visualization. Visualization is when we practice our dive the night before, the morning of the dive, and you lay in the bed, and you go mentally through the dive and do sort of the position of the dive, and then you think and you feel sort of that when you go and perform it, it flows a lot easier. And I learned from that, I use that in surgery, because if I'm the night before a very difficult surgery, I would go through the surgery in my mind. So I will visualize the surgery. The morning off, I'm also doing that. And when I'm scrubbing, before I go into the operating room, I'm also doing that, visualizing. So when I'm in the OR, everything flows a lot better. That's a very good tool for surgery that I learned in freediving, believe it or not. Another tool is breath control. Our breathing patterns are directly related to our mental state, whether it's anxiety, panic, baseline. And monitoring your breath is important. And I'm no expert on breath work, but I know that if my respiratory rate goes high, even if I'm not conscious that there's anxiety around, if I know that it's higher than normal, let's say, I don't know, 18, 20 per minute, I know that I must be feeling something wrong. So I try to monitor what is really bothering me. If I listen to my breath or my heart rate, sometimes you can feel your heart rate. If it's high, even in the water or dry, then you know there's something that's probably bothering you, whether it's lack of sleep, dehydration, or just anxiety or a bad nightmare that you had. And something that is important is that for performing in a freediving competition, the performance and the outcome of the performance is not just that moment. It's the night before and the week before. Everything that is on your mind and your body and how your heart rate and your sleep, everything determines the performance. So in surgery also, if you have a difficult surgery on a Friday, you better be sure that you get good sleep, good nutrition. You're in a nice state. You cannot be anxious or thinking if I said this wrong thing or if I'm mad at someone. It's just the present. So preparation, that's why preparation is important. Visualization is important, and being present and kind of listening to yourself a little bit.
It's so important what you said about having the ability to prepare, but also taking your time as you go through, like building on the night before. The performance is not just that day of the performance. It's everything that you've done to prepare for it. But it also makes me think of like the things that most people want in life. For instance, if they want to become a physician, they don't become a neurosurgeon overnight. Like how much time and effort and energy and school and experience that goes into becoming the person or the athlete or the professional, you know, that you want to become. And I just love that you said that. And I hope that people listening or just in general can really bring more of that into their lives of whatever we're trying to accomplish, whoever we're trying to be, knowing that we are only in this moment, but this moment, if we treat it, you know, meet it the best that we possibly can, we're going to continue to build on to the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And rather than looking forward or living in a state of anxiety of, am I ever going to get there? Is it ever going to be good enough? Or how do I get there? You know, like just do that, right? That analysis, but really try to focus on that present moment. Because if you do that well enough, like you said, the target will come. It will get you to hopefully wherever you want to be in life, you know?
Being present, whether it's in performance freediving or in surgery, is also having the ability to be present. Being present and being aware. That's not to say do not think. That's not possible, right? You cannot be not thinking 24 hours a day. It would be a problem, right? Like Eckhart Tolle said. But he also said that you can only find awareness and presence in the gap between two thoughts. That's very important. In the gap between two thoughts, when you're not thinking about tomorrow or this darn thing, the phone, excuse my French, then you're present. You're here, right? You're here and now, and that's important too. You have to be present on important things that you're doing. And that goes into the topic of flow psychology. What is flow psychology? When you're completely immersed into an activity so that nothing else matters, like a cook that is cooking and it takes hours and is completely immersed and happy and having constant feedback. That's the same flow state, if you want to call it that way, in surgery, because we are immersed in an activity and completely immersed in that feedback, constant, so that the clock doesn't matter. We may have to go to the restroom, but we don't feel the need until we're done. And the same happens in the water. So flow psychology is very important. And I'm no expert on that, but I know what it is.
I've been reading The Zen of Climbing because I rock climb, and he talks about Alex Honnold, who did the free solo of El Capitan, and how he's in that flow state, but he really makes it a point to say it's not the absence of thinking, that it is the absolute efficiency of thought where there is no unnecessary thought. And that, like you said, in between those moments of what's the next move, what's the next best step, that you're aware of what is there so that you can find it and then you just act, and then you find it and then you just act. And so that's whether you're rock climbing or diving or in surgery. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful state to practice. And I also think the fact that you have found it in surgery, somebody has found it in rock climbing, you can find it also in freediving. I really believe that we can find it in the more mundane of life, like sweeping, doing the dishes. They say those small tasks where rather than doing the dishes and thinking, oh, I've got to write this email or I've got to go pick up the kids or whatever it is, like really doing the task and kind of practicing that presence in those moments, I think is more attainable than people want to give it credit. I am curious because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really would love to pick your brain just a little bit on research, because that's an avenue that I'm really trying to dive into and figure out and navigate. And I can't remember the name of the group on Facebook. So please remind me, but you always post these research articles. And I know some of them are a lot of what you've been doing and you've worked on, or you'll find some. And it's one of my favorite groups to just go through when the notifications come.
It's called Freediving Medicine and Safety. It's
yes.
Freediving Medicine and Safety. It's a group that I formed maybe 4 years ago, and just gets people together to exchange information about scientific stuff about freediving. We also have a WhatsApp group, and which kind of the same people, and yeah.
So how did you get into that though? Because I know the cross of your love for medicine and freediving. So maybe it was just like inevitable, but was there anything in particular that motivated you to say, ooh, I really want to find out X, Y, or Z, or somebody else was writing a paper, or you had an opportunity with someone doing research? Like, how was it that you got into freedive medicine research in particular?
Yeah. When I was, I got certified late 2014. And I was just beginning. I thought it was fun, and it was, but then I went to that vertical blue competition late 2014 as just an spectator. And I met the medic then. His name is Tomar Dabani. And he realized I was a neurosurgeon. And he asked me, oh, why don't you examine someone that's having maybe some symptoms? So I examined someone, and that really sparked the interest. I realized there were some gaps that were identified in care for the freedivers, and I became a medic on a couple world record attempts, in a medic in a competition, and I had then being so friends with the athletes, I sort of became one at some point, and I had my own encounters with blackouts myself, with lung squeeze myself, eardrum perforation, and just little sort of injuries that you have in freediving. And that, so I became a patient sort of, and that forced me to read. And I think one of the first papers I was involved is with a coma science group, where we helped publish a paper of functional MRI in someone holding their breath for 6 minutes. And so I don't know, it's very rewarding to feel like you can contribute to something that you love so much. And I feel like freediving, however you practice it, if you do it safely, moving forwards in the next decades, it will be a form of therapy. I truly believe that. It's a shortcut to meditation, if you will. If somebody asks me, do you practice meditation? I don't sit, in a yoga studio. I don't do that. But I practice meditation when I'm doing 70 meters. I mean, definitely I do meditation underwater, because you're free. You're free of thought. You're free from thought. Let's call it that way, free from thought. So you're meditating. So moving forwards, I feel like freediving I'm working on some concepts about that, but I feel like however you spin it, it's going to be a form of therapy for a lot of people. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular? Well, I completely agree, because it's just it is my therapy, because I'm so close to the water. I will, if I'm ever having like a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, anything negative that really affects me, I just drive to the beach and I submerge into the water, and I just hold my breath, and I'm there, and I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm going through a therapeutic experience, and it's like I come back anew. I come healed. There's a piece of me that I can both leave in and under the water, but also like find and take with me out of it. Is there anything in particular that you're really interested in knowing? Like you said, the first question I had asked was, does breath holding cause brain damage? I know there's been a lot of back and forth and studies and conversations and stuff like that. But is there anything in particular for you personally in medicine or in freediving or with breath in general that you're really curious to know, like that we don't have the data or the science or the evidence on yet, but like your brain and your heart is like, oh, I really want to figure out that?
Yeah. I would like to figure out if the elasticity of our vessels change with a long long-term practice of freediving, because there's vascular changes during dive reflex, especially if you're doing depth freediving. There's peripheral vasoconstrictions, the vessels contract. There's blood shift into your core that supplies an increase of blood flow to your brain. So there's a lot of fluid shifts and blood shifts in a deep dive, even in a pool dive. I wonder if that has beneficial effects long term. I'm not sure if there's data for that. I would like to know that. I would like to know if we produce specific hormones when we are doing a deep dive, like oxytocin, for example, or endorphins. Like, I'm not sure if there's data on that at all. Actually, that would be very interesting. That will really prove or not of why we love it so much. It's not when we're doing line diving. It's not that you're looking at coral or fish. You're really looking into yourself. You're looking into yourself. And if you are alone with your thoughts and you're content and feel at home, that's worth a lot. It's priceless. So I would like to know that. I would like to know. I'd like to do some experiments on functional MRI as well and breath hold to see what areas of your brain activate when we do monofin diving versus static, for example. I would like to know that. It would be nice to do a underwater electroencephalogram to see your brain waves and put it underwater and take it to 70 meters or 80. It would be nice to do that. I would be a subject. I would volunteer to do that, in fact. So, I would like to know that. There's so many things, but those are the things I would start with. Yeah.
Well, Jani, I know that you've already done so much for both the medical community and the freedive community, and I can't wait to see how much more you're going to add, because the way that you're able to understand the therapeutic benefits of freediving and what it really does to the psyche and, the soul, so to speak, but also your knowledge and understanding of the physiology and the biochemistry and the anatomy of what the body is trying to do to be able to create those effects. I really look forward to what's next and what's, gonna build for you and for the communities.
Me too. I feel like the freediving community, honestly, is more scientifically inclined than others, let's say, that I've formed part of before. If you compare soccer or, I don't know, long jump or other things. Freediving community is very scientifically inclined. Everyone reads a little bit about physiology, hemoglobin, anatomy. So the freediving community just hungry to know science. It's just not what you would expect initially when you just buy your fins and your snorkel, right? You don't expect the community that does that to be hungry to learn anatomy and science. But that's what makes us different. So I'm really looking forward to that. And really, all I want to make sure is I do it right, and I share some sort of sense of safety for others, because freediving can be a very wholesome thing for you. It can change your life for the better. It can make you a better human being, and it can make you amazing, feel amazing. But it can take your life. It can kill you if you don't do it right. So it's fun. It's okay to have fun. Everyone can slap a pair of fins and get in the spring. But if you do it wrong, you can die. And people need to know that and be aware of that. It's nothing negative, but you need to be respectful of that. We are not coded from birth to survive indefinitely underwater, only for some time, not forever. But I don't know. It's freediving has so much science, but also it has a very holistic part, very mystical part too. It's the part of emotions and thought control and being present. That's very mystical. There's a very heavy scientific part too that we use to enhance our performance in freediving in competition. So very cool horizons.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. You know, when we become free divers, most of us are seeking something, you know, whether it's seeking that mysticism or the science behind it. We're trying to dig in and to find out. I want to say I really appreciate you touching on the safety. I will never forget the first time I met you, Tara and I were doing our apnea meetups, our all thing apnea. We were in somebody's pool, you know, and
Yes.
I don't know how we met or how, but you showed up and you were like, and it was so nice because my biggest thing of doing any type of free diving, I consider myself a performer in the sense of sports performance, and I like to push it, but I get very timid if I don't have someone around who I trust. And I remember being very comfortable with your knowledge and your presentation and your energy being there. It was very calm and cool and collected. And I just want to say thank you for touching on that. And for people to know, find people who are capable, you know, and if you want to be one of those people who are capable and you're not yet, like Wani said, take a training, do something that is going to get you educated and experienced so that you and the people you're working with can feel confident and able to take, you know, those journeys into the discovery of seeing yourself, meeting yourself, the depths of the water, the depths of the self, because it is a journey that I believe, and I know Wani believes, is definitely worth taking. But like he said, do it safely, do it wisely, do it with the proper guidance.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a competitor, so I do push myself on my training, and I go, you know, the little time I have, I try to optimize my training. But ultimately, freediving should be something that really enhances your life, not to make you miserable. If you concentrate only in the number or your depth, life can be very miserable. Life can be very sad. If you're shooting for something and you don't get it, you'll be disappointed. If you don't get it for 5 times in a row, it will tax you, right? So freediving should become something that is good for your life, an enhancer of your life, of your happiness. But yeah, very, very cool horizons. I'm very excited for the future on this. And I hope just to continue to be a tool for my fellow freedivers in the community.
I'm very confident you will. I have one last question for you. And that was, if there's anything at all that you know about breath that you think everyone should know, what would that be?
Just as breath is a reflection of your internal state and your mind, your psyche, you can use that to also influence you and control it, right? So if you feel anxious or you are immersed in this thing, the phone, or I don't know, external inputs that make you wonder and make your mind go 100 miles an hour, there's a way to calm and to stop the ripples in the water, if you will, to make the water sort of still. And this is to control your breath, whether you don't have to hyperventilate or do anything crazy, by just being aware of how you're breathing and try to control it, not being erratic, not being chaotic, but being very like a nice flow. And that will calm you right away. And that helps me when I'm rounding on my patients, when I'm doing surgery. That's really it. I mean, I don't know a very specific method. Everyone has their own method. But that's what I would say. That's not the very scientific part of me. That's very mystical. But it works, you know. It works. As long as it works and it can help someone, that's good to me. You know?
Thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, is there a way that they can find you or kind of keep up with you and see what you're doing?
Yes. So I'm medical director of the U.S. Freediving Federation. My job is to try to advise freedivers on how not to get hurt, and I try to do my best. We don't know a lot about freediving science, and we don't know a lot about freediving medicine. But sometimes being strict and saying no is the wisest choice in freediving. Sometimes saying I'm not diving today it's the wisest choice. If you want to get a hold of me, yeah, I mean, my Instagram, you can post my Instagram on the link. You can post my phone number if they have questions. I'm an instructor for freediving. I don't do classes because I don't have a lot of free time. I just dedicate the time to train for myself. But if you have questions, you can share my Instagram, you can share my WhatsApp. And as a neurosurgeon, I hope you never need my services because it's not fun. I hope you never get sick. Okay? And thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It's an amazing community. And I hope to see you in the blue, okay? We need to dive together.
God. Yes. And if anybody is curious of where he's talking about in the Bahamas, it is Long Island, Bahamas. It is called Dean's Blue Hole. And that was where he said he took his first freedive class with William Trubridge. And it is definitely an amazing place to experience freediving or just experience the water. So I will post Jani's contact. I will post the links down below. And thank you so much for tuning in to Breathe or Die. Until next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you in the blue.